Mark Selby. Nice to be back at the Crucible. Is it?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's come around too quick. 12 months has felt like 6 months, really. But, you know, I've had a decent season so far. Played some good stuff. Hopefully I can continue that form coming here.
When did you get the news that we were staying at the Crucible for 2 more decades?
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'd done an interview. I got a text off Ivan to say, will I do an interview when they announced it? So I've done that. And I think it's great news, you know. I think this is like the home of snooker, like Wembley is to football. So a lot of players were saying it could move somewhere else and you play for more money, you know, but the history is here for me. It's all I've ever known since a young lad growing up. And I think if you take it out of here and put it somewhere else, it's probably not got the same effect.
Yeah, it's like Wimbledon, tennis,
for sure.
Lords, they didn't take the Ashes out.
No, for sure.
Yeah, so where do you think it'll go during the 2 years? I'm going to say 2 because I don't trust builders.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be 2. I don't know. If it was to stay in the UK, some people are saying probably the York Barbican, but then you've got 2 major events at the same venue, which I don't really think works. Ali Pali, I don't think that works because there's nothing around the area for the fans to see. But I don't know. Maybe it's got to be a big city, I think, like Manchester somewhere or Liverpool or even somewhere else in London. But then it all comes down to cost again, I suppose. A lot of players are saying, what about Germany? Tempodrome, give something back to Europe because German fans have been great over the years. Maybe that could work. Maybe if put it there 1 year and then somewhere in the UK the other year. But, you know, we'll see. That decision won't be up to me. But wherever it is, I'm sure we'll enjoy it.
Speaking about history, got Antek Kowalski walking out tomorrow. First Polish pro. Saved his tour cards. Waiting for Stephen Hallworth to win his match. If he was £800 off to lose his tour cards. It was a very emotional day.
Right, if Stephen Hallworth won his game, then Anton would have. Even if it had qualified for the Crucible, he was still off.
No, so if Stephen Hallworth won his game, we wouldn't have even had to qualify for the Crucible.
Oh, I see.
Then we got to a point where if we had not qualified for the Crucible, he would have been £800 off. And
on the 1 year list. Right, yeah.
And so it was massive for him. And it was emotional. You've obviously practiced with him, brought him up there. And you've seen a bit of his talent. You've seen a bit of his temperament. Well, that's an interesting day. We had that. How do you see him as an emerging young pro? And what do you think it does for the game to have Polish games?
Yeah, amazing. Talent-wise, obviously very, very good. You know, he's very natural, very raw. Temperament, I'd rather not mention too much about that the day I experienced it. But, you know, obviously he wants it, I suppose. You know, he gets frustrated if he's not performing like he knows he can do. And I think for nearly 2 years, he's probably not performed nowhere near as what he knows he's capable of. Hence why he was in the position he was in. But, you know, to go into the World Championships under that kind of pressure, knowing that he's got to qualify for the Crucible to keep his tour card is incredible, you know, to go on and achieve that. Really, really happy for him. You know, he's a nice kid. Great for the game to have another young lad outside of the UK as well. I mean, we had Luca a few years ago from Belgium, European guy, winning the World Championship. Now we've got Antek as well, which is great. As well as 2 other young lads, Liam and Stan getting through as well, because it seems to be dominated last few years just by the Chinese players. So it's nice to have like the UK and Europe sort of coming through and all at the same time as well.
Yeah.
You know, they're all at the same time. It's great.
I mean, the qualifiers, I love the qualifiers because I think we really saw the youngsters shine.
Yeah.
You forget they are pros for a reason. They can play snooker.
Yeah.
And it's just so much more heart and so much on the line for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, in terms of the practice that you did with Kowalski, one thing I really noticed like, taking him around is that, see, Ken Doherty would like give him some tips on the table. You basically your method was just to recreate almost like a match condition. It was like best of 19, like he's in there, high pressure. That's probably why we saw outbursts at the end. And he walked away from that saying, wow, that was a schooling for me. Do you feel like that is the way to like help these youngsters to practice, or do you think you need a bit of both?
No, I think if you're going to practice, I think you've got to practice properly, else it's like pointless doing it. Like it's the same in any job, you know. If you go in there and you're doing it half-hearted, then what's the point? You either do it 100% or nothing, you know. I'd rather play like that. The amount of players I've played over my career in practice, like, and you're playing players and they're going for silly shots, and I'm saying to them, would you have gone for that in a match? And they've gone, well, probably not. And I'm like, well, why are you going for it now? All you're doing is just creating bad habits, you know. Yeah. So if you play the right shots in practice over and over again, more times than not, you're going to play the right shots in a match. So that's the way I've always been taught, and that's the way I think it should be. So, you know, I mean, I didn't want him to come to me for a day's practice and then him just to think that, like, I was just messing about and not even bothered about being there. Yeah. And then he probably feels like he's wasted his time. So
you feel like recreating practice is really important
For sure, because it just creates good habits. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's the same as like if you play in practice, you think, oh, I'm going to do a different cue action in practice to what I'm going to do in the match, and then like, what is the point? You know?
Yeah. Obviously, we're developing the youngsters in Sri Lanka. We're trying to develop in Sri Lanka. We're at the early stages. We came to Sri Lanka and see what they've got out there, and you've seen what the situation is in terms of infrastructure. Like, how do you think that it will grow? Do you think that there is potential? Because obviously, all the international games that you have now, Saudi, China, there's a lot of money behind it, and this is almost like we're trying to get some organic growth going there. But how do you see that working out? Do you think snooker is the type of sport that can benefit from that, or?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because different countries obviously are involved in different sports. Like you look at India, you relate like cricket to India and stuff. And then like same with Sri Lanka, like cricket's really high there. And then we go to China. I mean, China, it seems to be at the moment, seems to be like snooker or basketball. They have the CBA there. So to try and go to a different country, what's not really experienced that sport and trying to break it in, it takes a long while, you know, and it's difficult. And obviously with Sri Lanka, as we've seen, like some of the areas like are quite like poor and haven't really got the funding some areas have. So it's difficult to sort of like try and break into Sri Lanka on a whole. You might get certain areas that you can break into, but it's not a case of just doing certain areas. You want the whole country to be behind the sport, you know, for it to grow. So it's very, very difficult. But, you know, we enjoyed our time there. We had put on a good show. Obviously, it was well organised. It was great. We had good crowds, you know, and they've sort of had like a taste of it. So they sort of know what's involved for it to sort of, you know, get to its fruition. Whether that happens in the future, we'll see.
So if you've got youngsters out there who've seen you play, and you know you created quite a bit of buzz. So did Jack out there. They see you play, but you know, they want to get here. They don't have the infrastructure out there. Right? What's your advice for them?
Well, it's tough because obviously they probably don't have the funding either, do they? They don't have the infrastructure. Players, even the same with the Chinese guys, obviously, who haven't got the players to practice with. You always say to them, well, the only way it could work for them is if they come over to the UK, base themselves here, practice at one of the academies, playing with better players than themselves to improve. That's really the only way you can do it, because even the young boy who was out there playing in the exhibition, he was good, but he's got no one to practice with. He's got no really coaches over there to improve him. The only way he's going to improve is if he sort of takes himself out of that environment. But then you think he's taking himself away from home, he's taking himself away from his family, and it's costing him a hell of a lot of money as well, which you probably can't afford to do. So it's difficult, you know, unless he gets someone who's willing to fund him and sponsor him and do it that way. That's the only way it can really happen.
Yeah, Barry's advice was to move. He was like, you know, these kids need to promote. Them like.
Yeah, for sure. But it's easy to see. It's all right saying that, but if you can't afford it, I mean, for me now, thinking like, right, if I still had my family here in the UK and I thought, right, I want to be a snooker player, but I need to go and live in China for 3 years and not see like my mum or dad or sister and brother for like 3 years, and you're out there on your own. It's not easy to do, you know. So I understand obviously how difficult it is for them, but they sort of stuck between like a rock and a hard place, aren't they? Because he loves the game. This young boy we've seen wants to become a snooker player, but then hasn't really got the fundamentals behind him to go on and do that, unless he does move out of his own country and leaves home, which is tough.
Yeah. So in terms of just giving them a bit of advice, part of this is because we can't go back there because of all the political stuff at the moment, the airspace and everything. Part of why we're here today is just to try and still connect with them.
Yeah.
Obviously, when they're watching you out there, like you are obviously the grandmaster of the group and being strong, but also being able to like break build. And how do you get that balance? How do you know when to kick into that gear? Because you're a player, I think, quite underestimated in the fact that you have various gears that you click into. Like, how do you get what's going on in your brain?
Yeah, I don't think like I've not been taught that. It's just obviously my concentration level. I just try and keep focused from start to finish. Because I know at any stage in snooker, once you lapse that little bit of concentration, that could cost you 2, 3, 4 frames in a row. So but I just always play the frame for what it is. I don't go out there and think, right, I'm going to grind this one out, or then the next match I think, right, I'm going to go and do a break building. Sometimes the frames, you go out there and if you're playing well, the frames don't let you play well. Sometimes they go scrappy, sometimes they go open. But I just have the mindset of going into the match and just think, look, I'm just going to go in there and just play the frame however it pans out. Don't lose my head, try and keep my head and just go out there and just keep calm, you know. And if it's a scrappy frame which lasts 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then I'm willing to do it. If it's a frame that lasts 10 minutes and it's a 80 break or century break, and then I'm willing to try that as well.
I hope you win. I spent the last year telling you that you were lifting your 50.
Well, hopefully you're right.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're right. I feel like I'm playing well, yeah. But, you know, there's a lot of other people playing well as well. So it's just a matter of who's the strongest, I think, mentally.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.